Hi, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap, and in this video I'm going to show you how to turn all of this into 8 beautiful scrapbook pages. This is the Christmas Legacy page kit. Very excited about this. And the theme itself is actually a spin-off of a collection we released earlier in 2022 called Legacy. And actually a lot of people saw a little bit of Christmas in that Legacy collection. So we updated the colors and it's absolutely a beautiful kit. All right, so I have my collection here and I'm going to set aside all of the goodies. So that includes the ribbon, the envelopes, and all the little doodads and sparkly things. And I've got my Fisker's guillotine style trimmer here. If you're watching one of our videos for the first time, this is the trimmer that I really recommend. It's very reasonably priced and durable. It does a great job for our purposes. And I'm also using this little accordion pocket file organizer. When I use this, I basically trim everything required for all 8 pages at the same time. It's the most efficient way to do it. And then everything will be filed into one of these 4 pockets, each representing a double page spread. So this little lip here fits underneath the trimmer. If you don't have this, it's okay. Just maintain 4 piles. And if you want to make one of these, I have a way to help you do that as well. So reach out to us for that accordion pocket file, starter kit, and video information. Now, here I have printed a copy of the instructions. Printing the instructions is optional. You can just follow along with me and maybe use a tablet or a computer screen rather than printing if you like. So step 1 is to sort these papers in the order that we'll be using them. We are going to be starting right away with the green print, or the berry print is what I'm calling this, because it has the majority of the art is in that berry color versus this one is more green. Sometimes it's really hard to name our prints, I have to be honest. So take one of these and put it face down on your trimmer base. All the rest I kind of like to look at from the top edge. It's a little easier to see. And then I'm going to take one of these other prints, I'm calling this the green print, that has the smaller quatrefoil design. So put that face down. Okay, next we're looking for wine. Now there's 2 shades of this berry color here. One is metallic, and I'm calling that berry metallic. The other is, I'm just calling it wine, and it's a flat color. So grab 1 sheet of the wine, actually 2 sheets, we need both of them. And then we also have this lovely champagne metallic. So I'm gonna take 1 sheet of that, and you'll notice that there's a texture on one side and it's smooth on the other. It does not matter to me which way you adhere it to anything, but if I like to have the texture on the top, so I'm going to put that face down right now. Same for the texture on this pine green color, so one of those. And then a berry, this berry metallic. Next, I want 1 sheet of the ivory linen, so just make sure it's a linen texture, it's plain on the other side, and just take 1 of those. Then we'll do a cut apart. I'm looking for this one that has the 4 circles on the left edge. Put that face down, and then usually the cut aparts are on the back of the pile. Then this last cut apart here. Continuing with our sorting, we're gonna go to the 2 remaining ivory linen. So there should be a total of 3 in your kit. 2 are left, put those face down. Then the other green print. Then the remaining berry metallic, followed by the 2 remaining green. And lastly, take this last berry print and end with the champagne metallic. Flip that over. Okay, I'm gonna flip everything on that stack now back to the top, right where we started with the berry print. And if the orientation of the print does matter, I usually put that right in the instruction in the diagram. So yes, in this case, if you want your layouts to match mine, which is not necessary, place it in with this darkest image here in the upper left corner of your trimmer. And then we're gonna find 8.5 inches. Now when you do that, if you're new to the trimmer, just make sure your paper is level at the top. And I always find the whole number, 8, and then go to the left 2 vertical columns to find 8.5. Again, checking for level. I always push down on this clear bar. I do it as naturally as blinking does. So I want you to work yourself up to where it is that natural for you as well. And then we'll just slice it. It does a beautiful job with trimming. Then we're gonna go down to 4.5 inches. And this larger piece is going to be filed into the pocket labeled 3 and 4. And just a point I want to make is that this is 12 inches wide and so is the paper. So when you file it, I just go like this so I can still see the number on the pocket. And that way I'm not forcing the paper down in either. Now this next piece, just trim it in half at 6 inches. And we're gonna put this in pocket 1 and 2, or pile. And this last strip also goes in pocket 3 and 4 with the other long strip. Now this one, I'm gonna place this in the trimmer with this really, really dark shape. The darkest one on the sheet in the upper left corner, and then this dark red will be on the far right. And we're gonna cut at 8 and 3 3/4. So again, for 3 3/4, you just want to find the whole number 3, go to the left 3 vertical columns, make sure you're level, and slice. Okay, so this piece goes in pocket 5 and 6, and the remaining 2 strips go in 7 and 8. And we're on to page 2 of our instructions. We'll take the wine, make a series of mats with this. Make sure you only have 1 sheet of the wine. We'll cut at 6 1/4. Stabilize, rotate, and cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Stack the 2 pieces you just created that are the same, and those go in pocket 7 and 8. Then you have this rectangular piece left. We'll trim at 6 and 3. That gives us 2 pieces that are the same size, and those will go in pocket 3 and 4. And I'm sorry to report there's a small scrap involved there. You can set that out of the way. Now this remaining piece from that 6 by 12 or whatever, 5 3/4 by 12 right now, we'll cut at 8 and 4. Stack everything up and place in pocket 5 and 6. All right, now the other sheet of wine we'll trim at 11, 9 3/4, 8 1/2, lots of strips here, 6 3/4, 5, 2 3/4. Rotate the 2 3/4 inch piece, and please observe that when I was trimming all those papers, I simply let them land where they landed. I didn't move them out of the way, because if you do that, all these strips aren't going to be in the same order that mine are in, and it's just a lot harder to identify them to file. Okay, so this piece we ended with, I rotated it, and now we're going to trim it into some squares and a little scrap. So our first cut's at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. Okay, so I'm gathering up the squares, and then there's the scrap here. So all the squares go in pocket 1 and 2, and you can set this little guy aside. Now I'm going to carefully pick up everything that landed and file it all like I'm dealing a deck of cards. So the first widest strip goes in 5 and 6. The next 2 strips, and they should be the same size, those both go in 7 and 8. Then the next 2 strips that are the same go in 1 and 2. And the narrowest one that we had will go in 5 and 6. And you'll see next up, we've got the champagne, and we will cut at 11, 8 3/4, and 6. This next one is my favorite. Just rotate the 6 by 12, and we'll cut at 8 and 4. Okay, so you have 1 piece. There are 3 the same, really. One of them will go in pocket 1 and 2, and the other 2 will be placed in 3 and 4. And then let's cut some more squares. Actually, they're not quite squares. We'll trim at 9 1/4, 6 1/2, and then 3 1/4. So the piece you just created and the one that fell down, those are the same size going into pocket 3 and 4. The last 2 are square, and those go in pocket 5 and 6. Now the next strip, this is the wide one and the skinny one right next to it. That goes in 3 and 4 as well, all of that. And moving on to some green here. Let's trim this at 6 1/4. I'm gonna do my famous little trick to make a couple of photo mats. We'll rotate and cut at 8 1/2, 4 1/4, and marry these two up, and they're both going to go in pocket 1 and 2. This piece too, we're going to make a couple of smaller photo mats. We'll trim horizontally at 6 and 3. And then these two rectangles are the same size, going in pocket 1 and 2, creating a little scrap to match the other one like. And then this piece we're going to trim at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Gather up the 3 pieces that are the same size, and those are going to go in pocket 7 and 8. And then you have this really skinny guy. We're actually going to use him in layout 1 and 2. Continuing on, we are almost there with all the trimming complete. We have just a little ways to go. We're going to make a really tiny strip. We're going to trim at 11 3/4. And then 7 1/2 and 4. Okay, this piece rotate, we're going to cut it in half at 6. All right, so two the same. One's going to go in pocket 5 and 6, and the other in 7 and 8. Then pick up this next strip, currently 3 1/2 by 12, and cut at 11 1/2. 8 3/4, 6, and 3. So now these are the rectangles. They're two alike in pairs, right? And the total of 4 rectangles, one's are shorter than the other. All of it goes in pocket 7 and 8. And then there is a tiny scrap that you don't use. Then we're gonna trim this horizontally at 11 and 6 1/4. Take the 6 1/4 inch piece and put it in pocket 3 and 4. This odd shaped one goes in 7 and 8. And set this one aside. It's not a scrap, we're going to be using it. And then this goes in pocket 3 and 4, that really narrow strip. Moving on to the ivory. Let's make a bunch of those skinny strips now. We'll start out at 11 3/4, 11 1/2, 11 1/4, 7 3/4, and 4. Rotate and cut that 4 by 12 in half at 6. One of these goes in pocket 3 and 4, and the other in 7 and 8. I'm going to take this next strip, and we're going to do a series of rectangles here. We'll trim at 11. It's going to be a scrap. Then 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. And then all 4 of these rectangles that are the same go in pocket 5 and 6. And this is a scrap. The next piece will trim at 8 and 4. 3 equal pieces here. One of these goes in pocket 1 and 2. And then 3 and 4. And 5 and 6. And if you want, you can take the envelopes that were provided to you as a goodie, put one of them in 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, because those pieces we just cut fit inside the envelopes. All right, now we have these cute little paper ribbons, I call them. 2 of them will go in pocket 3 and 4, and then the other final one goes in 5 and 6. And now we've arrived at our Cutaparts. I need to explain to everyone again that we have these little plus signs in the corner. And what that's going to help us to do is start off with a perfect 12 by 12 after we remove everything on the outside of those little marks. So for my first cut, I try to get that plus sign as close as I can to my blade, but I just go a little generous on the cut and then I neaten it up on my final rotation. Now I rotate it around to the other side, just one turn in either direction. And I'll just continue my way around. And at some point, you'll be able to really see well, both at the top edge and the bottom edge of the blade. You'll be able to see those hash marks and how they line up with your blade perfectly. And that's my final little neaten up. And so now I have all these little tiny strips of varying size I can throw away. And now I want to place this in my trimmer so that this darker strip is on the right. Our first cut will be at 10.5, and you can always double check to make sure you're not going through any artwork to make sure you have the paper positioned correctly. And then 9, 8.25, 7.5, 5.5, and 3.5. All right, for these, we'll rotate so that Christmas State of Mind is on your right, and we'll cut at 10.5, 7, and 3.5. Now, if you happen to have thin circle dies, punches, anything like that to help you trim the perfect circle, you can do that. I had to do the oval by hand, of course. And you can also trim the circles by hand as well if you want that circular shape. Of course, that's optional. This first one goes in pocket 3 and 4. Be filled with wonder, 5 and 6. I just want to bake stuff, 1 and 2. And then Christmas State of Mind, also 1 and 2. The rest of the strips I'm going to pick up just like I did before with all those little borders. Grab the whole stack and file them from top down. So the True Joy, 3 and 4. Christmas Waves, 5 and 6. This thin strip, 3 and 4. And the other narrow one, 5 and 6. These last two are paired together in 7 and 8. On this next cut apart, I'm going to do the same thing and go ahead and remove that perimeter just like we did before. So if you want to pause me, you can do that same thing. And this is something you can always do in advance of doing any of the workshops. And you can skip over this part entirely because it'll be done. Okay, let's position it again with those darker strips, the narrowest pieces on the right. And our first cut will be at 11, and then 10, 7.5, and 4. Rotate, we'll cut at 10.5. Make sure that narrowest piece was on the right. And then 6. Okay, so this piece goes in pocket 3 and 4. This one, 7 and 8. Magic, 7 and 8. Now, if you want, we can just put this in the trimmer with that tag on the right, and we'll cut at 10.5. And then you can also just cut right between this piece of art and the next one. It's not going to be on, it's going to be like at 7 5/8 or something. Just separate those two out. Okay, all 3 of these go in pocket 1 and 2. And then this is actually the top view of a pine cone, which I think is so pretty. I just love it. That goes in 3 and 4. Oh, and then the tag, of course, that goes in 5 and 6. Before you file that, if you want to cut your angles on the tag, you can do that, or you can do it later with scissors or with a craft knife and cutting mat. This one goes in 5 and 6, and then we'll trim this strip, narrowest piece on the right for starters, and we'll go at 10.5, 7, 3.5. And these were designed to fit onto the envelopes that we included. So this, or inside them. The Joy goes in 1 and 2. Noel, 5 and 6. And Merry Everything, 3 and 4. Oh, the tag. Once again, maybe you can, if you would like, you can lob off those triangular shapes from the corners. It's so nice and easy to make your own handmade tags with this method. I'm just kind of closing one eye and lining it up as best I can, and snip. And that goes in 5 and 6 as well. And these last two pieces, 1 and 2. And aside from those little triangles that we lobbed off, let's take a look here. These are your scraps. Not bad for a day's work. Remember, this we're gonna use, and I quick want to show you. I've got this tiny punch. It's just a circle. And honestly, I have not invested in punches of this nature in a long time. I just have this stash of really practical, simple sizes. I know some of you have a whole repertoire of punches that you use, like that do really special things. I've not done that because they're really bulky and take up a lot of space. So you can also do this, just punch a bunch of holes, circles. You can do this with a regular 1/4 inch hole punch. You can do it with a crocodile. And we are going to be able to use these little circles as berries that go really cute with our holly leaf embellishments. Okay, so that's what that's all about. And that's why we saved that last little strip to create these circles for our pages. And then all of this really is not going to be used unless you find a home for it. So right now I'm going to set aside my trimmer. Always supporting my accordion pocket file. Once the trimmer is not holding it up, I like to lay it on its back, especially so we don't want it falling off the back end of our table. That would be terrible. Now, as you can see, I still have some papers that aren't trimmed. These are the bases of our layouts, and we are going to dry fit, meaning not use any adhesive, starting from layout 8, going down to layout 1, so that layout 1's on the top of our stack. We can come back with some adhesive and finish it off. So basically, I'll take the entire stack and pull the top sheet only, bring it to the right, and lay out the base of layouts 7 and 8. So the whole stack of remaining 12 by 12s is on the left, with just one sheet of ivory on the right. And then if you look in your instructions on page 5, layout 7 and 8, the base of those pages is the ivory linen. So there you have it. Everything you need for the layout itself will be coming from the remaining embellishments and the pocket labeled 7 and 8. So typically what I do is empty the pocket and just kind of gather everything up so it's in my hand. So I find that it's much easier to distribute the pieces that I have from my hand rather than from the tabletop, because things just tend to get stuck on the table. All right, so we have the strip that has this bold green image at the top. And here's a pretty dark one on the far right. That goes across the top, flush with the edge of that ivory linen base. Then the other piece, I've got it turned so that this interesting part is down at the bottom on the left, on the right side rather. Okay, then I've got these two wine-colored strips. One will be placed directly above that print and the other will be directly below it. So just going right up against it like a chair rail with wallpaper in the dining room. Okay, then on top of that, we've got this piece here with the journaling prompt right on it. So you can put a little note, you can put the year or whatever, who was there. And this should nest right on top of that. Now there was that weird berry-shaped rectangle that will fit in with this perfectly. And then I ended up taking some of these holly leaves and I put them on either corner of that cute little oval shape. And then with some, once it's kind of all attached, you can glue on, and that's totally optional. Like if you don't have a punch, it's not a big deal. But I added 3 of these cute little punched very metallic circles to the corners. I'm just kind of throwing them there for now. Okay, then there should be a stack of 3 green linen mats that are the same, and they're trimmed to 3 3/4 inches wide. By doing that, it allows us to spread them evenly across the bottom of this page. It just really fits in there nicely. Okay, then on this lower right corner, I've taken one of these wine-colored mats, and you can nest it with the ivory, so kind of brighten up the page a little bit. I also have this berry metallic that's going to fit vertically in there, and then there are a series of rectangles here. There are two taller and two shorter. So the tallest one and the short and the tall. Kind of just break that up a little bit, and it fits it really nicely like a puzzle in there. And then we have your two Never Too Old to Believe in Magic. That's gonna like sit right out here to the right with a little loop of ribbon next to it. I'm not sure if I misspoke or I misfiled, but this last wine colored 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 should be placed in pocket 1 and 2. Now, before we move on to our next set of pages, let's take a look at that finished page and some of the other things I did with it. First of all, you can see that little loop of ribbon, and that's just, to me, a nice simple way to draw the eye to something without having anything real bulky or, you know, not a big investment there. It just is a nice little touch. Then this is another fun thing I like to do. Just punch a hole into the strip before you nest it onto anything, and then run the tail of the ribbon just like this far underneath and secure it, maybe with, you know, washi tape or cellophane tape, and then run the rest around to the back of the strip as well. Just, again, another neat way to add ribbon without having to tie any knots or bows. Sometimes that is a nemesis, right? Okay, and then here's layout 7. I mirrored that, again, by punching the hole and wrapping that silk ribbon around to the back of the side. And you can see my cute little finished holly bundles. Oh, so sweet. Okay, so now I'm gonna slide this sheet on over on top. So 7's on top of 8, and I slide the next piece over, and that's gonna be the base for layout 6. As far as orientation, this one is positioned with that dark red here, kind of there in the corner. And I got my berry metallic on the left. That's what's needed for my base of 5 and 6. So that means I can take everything out of pocket 5 and 6 and make sure it's empty. Here we go. I'm gonna grab all of this into my hand as best I can. And you know, if it's too hard for you to, I don't know, sometimes our hands just ache or they hurt. Do it your way. You know, this is just, for me, it works the best, especially in the winter where my hands get really dry and it's hard to pick stuff up off the table. Okay, so this strip again goes across the bottom. I did have that overlay position like so. And then maybe we'll start off with these 4 rectangles. You can place them up here in the left in like 2 little rows. And then to the right of that, I had a wine-colored photo mat that just happens to fit perfectly. Now, if you want, and I have to say this, I kind of feel like it ended up, that's a little backwards to me. So I'm just going to see how this looks. I'm going to move everything over to the right. I felt like that bigger image should have been first. I don't know. Follow your heart on this one, okay, my friends? Just do whatever you want. Then this really wide strip is going to match our page title. So again, maybe with photos I'll feel differently, but I just feel like the page ended up, I don't know, not feeling quite right with all of that on the left side. Okay, on and on about that, sorry. Now I've got 2 horizontal wine-colored mats balancing here with a vertical berry metallic. Then you have this strip here to mirror what's happening on the left, so that's nestable. We've got 2 squares that are just going to be real sweet down here in the lower left corner. Oh, below this strip, we're going to add a paper ribbon. Again, that ivory, even just that little bit, helps kind of balance out what happened on the left. Now you have this little cute envelope, so open it up, and the ivory linen fits in there. Ivory linen rather, and then you can staple, if you would like, staple a piece of ribbon to the top corner. Again, a nice easy embellishment that'll fit right in there. And then I offset this just a little bit to the right. Now I did some fun things with this tag. Punched a hole in it, threaded it with the champagne double-faced satin, and I like that it's double-faced because no matter when the ribbon is placed, it's used in both directions like so and taped around to the back, and that way you don't have a wrong side facing up. The ribbon definitely has a grain or like a direction, a weave that you want to cooperate with, but no matter which way you look at the ribbon, there's no dull side. That's just the bonus of, you know, club scrap. And I mirrored that over on this side with this tag with ribbon going around to the back. And again here, if you want to trim your own circle with scissors, that's fine. You could use a thin die. I like to use a scissors. This one has a very, very long blade. So when I'm trimming a circle, I want it to be as perfect as possible. I like to open the blade as kind of as wide as is comfortable, squeeze while I turn. That way you have fewer jagged marks on your circle. There, that's a pretty nice circle considering it's cut with scissors. And you know, do whatever you're comfortable with. On my first samples, I did it with a die cut. Now here again, I've got these little punch circles, and at one point I got kind of tired of gluing them down, so I didn't on the other. I didn't use them because they don't really need it either, but they do add something. And I love that this, to me, sort of looks like an ornament. I don't know, I thought it was very sweet. Then also, if you would like, just take some of these crystals we've included. These are a nice high quality crystals, so they really sparkle. They're very iridescent, and we found like that berry and green both. The way I attach them is with my needle tip applicator. I do not add the glue to the crystal. I add the glue to the paper and then place the crystal on top. Just a nice little round disc of glue is all you need, and not any larger than the crystal itself. And that'll be the very, very last thing you do after you've completed the page with, you know, everything. So taking a look now, I shared a lot of the tips with you already, but here you can see the, I just punched the hole in the top and wrapped it around to the back, secured it. And then here's the stapled green silk ribbon on the upper right corner. Oh, I see I did round the corners on this as well. And then added 3 crystals to the Noel journaling prompt. On page 5, I repeated that method here with the ribbon. You can see my sweet, sweet finished embellishment there. 2 more ribbon loops on the champagne metallic. I just love that ribbon with that gold woven into it. And then here are my 3 crystals that I've added. Okay, the base of layout 5 is that berry metallic. I'll pick that up and slide it on over, and then slide the top sheet again. And that should give me the base for layouts 3 and 4. So let me take pocket 3 and 4 and get that all emptied out. And after all the years of doing this method, I'm still in love with this part of the process. It just makes me, it's so satisfying. I hope you agree. Okay, so here we have this beautiful section of that berry print. It's the green section. And then here we have this stunning piece that's going to go a few inches from the bottom edge, and we're going to flank that on both sides with the eye-catching ivory paper ribbon. And then we're going to add the berry metallic to this one, followed by a champagne strip that nests with the decorative border strip here from the Cutaparts. Okay, now down on the bottom here, we're going to add 2 photo mats. And then we've got this berry vertical right here. And then 2 horizontal wine nested with 2 champagne. Then vertically next to that, I'll take the other champagne strip here and nest it with the title. And you have your ivory linen. You can round the top corners if you like and slide it into the envelope we've provided. And then you can staple a piece of folded ribbon to the upper left side and then offset the Merry Everything. Then the ivory linen mat goes on top of the berry, and then this sits in the lower right corner. Here you can just fussy cut very simply the top of the pine cone angle and then this circular image, and I did something really cool with the ribbon. Can't wait to show you, so let's just go right to that. Turned it into an ornament in the easiest way possible. So the first thing I did was added some of the red ribbon and just taped it to the back. So it appears to be running from the top of the circle, and then just tied a little knot from the bow, trimmed with the V shape, the swallow's tail edge on the ribbon, and just glued it on top. So it's 2 pieces of ribbon, but they kind of look separate. If only this had been a little higher. To me, it looks like an ornament hanging from there, and I love that look. And then I just tucked this piece behind it. This was mounted with foam adhesive. Then just make sure you keep that area free of adhesive so you can still slide your photo underneath. The other layout, easy peasy. Now of note, I did have quite a few leftover crystals. I forgot to add all of them, so pepper them around onto this page. Maybe you could use a little sprucing up with those gorgeous gems. Okay, now I'm going to take the base, this green, slide it over, and we've actually arrived at layouts 1 and 2. Looks like this larger green area will be in the lower right corner this time. I do like to vary that from layout to layout, and everything from pocket 1. I can't believe we're already at pocket 1. Make sure it's empty. Okay, here we go. We have these squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a trick I use a lot. It's a 2 3/4 inch square, and what I like about that size is you can equally space them across a 12 by 12 with a perfect, it just works great every time. Below that you can add a strip, which will be nested with your page title, which comes from our Cutaparts. Sparkle and shine, it's Christmas time. Then I have 2 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch green mats, and you can nest them with the prints. It makes the layout look nice before you have photos on it even. Okay, then on this side I'm going to have a horizontal wine nested with champagne. Gives it a nice anchoring effect. Below that we add the green. I'll explain more on that in a moment. This is a vertical strip nested with him. Sections it off nicely. We should have our envelope here. And once again, you can round those corners, staple with ribbon, insert into the envelope, wrap the envelope itself with a little ribbon is what I did. I'll show you that. Add your little joy. Add your, there. Okay, now let's see what's left. 2 green verticals that should kind of frame up very nicely there. And all these other pieces are, these 3 shapes plus the circle are on the left, and this is on the right. Now with this scrap, I took scissors and just cut a little V, and I do this a lot. It's a wonderful way to A, rescue a scrap, B, draw the eye to something. And in this case, I made a little handmade banner. Once this is trimmed into an oval, it sits on there as an anchoring device, and you can accent that with a crystal gem on either side. Really a nice little touch. And I also added the final holly to that other side. Now let's explore these finished pages. So here I've wrapped the envelope with ribbon before adding it to the layout and just added it on top. I didn't bother with my little berries. Here you can see the finished work here. Now on the left, I created a little collage. So after, relatively fussy cutting the 3 quatrefoil shapes, I arranged them on the page and then added this circle after with some foam adhesive. Tie a little bow from the champagne satin ribbon. And I took this holly piece. You can see it's not really arranged the way you would think. So all I did was cut it into 2 separate pieces and arrange them peeking out like so. And to me, again, it looks like a series of ornaments. Real happy with the way that turned out. I'll quickly show you how I make those bows. I take the ribbon and make 2 bunny ears. And I'm cooperating with the way the ribbon already wants to be looped, okay? Once you get your ears, you crisscross. So I brought the right over the front. Take that right loop and bring it through the hole that formed and pull. It's not real attractive quite yet, so what you'll need to do then is just work with it a little bit by pulling the bows, or the loops, whatever you want to call them, until it looks the way you want it to look. And then when you tighten it up, you've got a pretty nice flat bow. Really love it. So then I trimmed the tails and I picked my favorite side, which would probably be this one, and then I add it to my project. Okay, that's how I make my bows. And I never tire of it, and they usually turn out really well, and if they don't, I just untie them and try again. So that, my friends, concludes the Christmas legacy pages. We got those together very quickly. I hope you enjoyed the process, And now it's your turn to get out your adhesive, your grid ruler, and your Christmas memories, whether future or past. Then maybe you're getting ready to finish your pages are ready for 2022. You just never know. Either way, it's a gorgeous collection. I hope you love it as much as we all do here at Club Scrap. And if you like the theme, make sure you grab the stamps and the card kit as well. I've got a really fun set of 12 cards we're going to make with this collection too. So join me there. I look forward to seeing you again in class soon.